Hello my dear YouTube friends, and I hope you're all well and keeping safe. Welcome to this new series of videos I'm going to be making. This is my around the world tour in Flight Simulator 2020, or around the world flight. It's not only going to be that, I'm going to be throwing in hints and tips for beginner pilots, and perhaps you can reciprocate that back to me if you notice me making mistakes, which I'm bound to do. I'm going to be flying from my home area of the south coast of England, and pretty much I want to fly around the world. I want to also utilise things like VATSIM and Pilot's Edge. These are kind of player controlled ATC programs or environments. I really want to try that. It's only now, really, that Microsoft Flight Simulator 2000, since it's come along, it's only now that I feel encouraged and enticed to do this. I've always wanted to get on VATSIM and Pilot's Edge and that type of thing. I just wasn't encouraged enough with other flight simulators. Flight Simulator has really encouraged me to do that. I also want to try and fly as many of these different aircrafts as I can, and perhaps even when better payware aircraft get released, I want to try them too. So that's the whole idea. So let's not make this intro too long, and let's get on with the show. So let's go to world map first. Like I said, I live on the south coast of England. I can zoom into the map. I'm over England at the moment, obviously, or the UK. I can zoom in and find the airport I want to fly from. Another way you can do it, first tip in case you haven't discovered this, just type in the airport in this box here, click in here. I want to tap fly from Goodwood. There you go, I typed Goodwood in, and that's where Goodwood is, near Chichester. So I'm going to click that. That's where I want to fly from. And for this first flight, it's going to be a nice, gentle, easy flight. Actually, I'll choose my runway. It's only a kind of strip airport. It's only a very basic airport, Goodwood. So I'll choose the bigger runway, 32. Set as departure. I've got, just by the way, I've got real world weather and time and live air traffic. I've not got multiplayer on at the moment. And I want to fly to Gatwick. Now I can see Gatwick there. I can just click on it and choose it. Another way I prefer to do this is actually by going here and typing in the airport or the 4-letter code. I'll just type in the airport here, even though you can see it on screen, just in case you're wanting to do a flight and you can't see the airport. Type it into your to airport where you're going to, and there you go, Gatwick. And I'll land 26 left is fine. It's basically, if I follow that direction, it should actually take me pretty much on a direct route to runway 26 left. So there you go, let's fly that. Obviously I'm running on the latest Flight Simulator 2020 patch, which is patch 2, and the loading times have improved. I never had a massive problem with loading times, but they've actually improved a little bit. Typically loads in under a minute, so don't let me down. There we are, loaded in pretty quick. And we get an overview of Goodwood. As you can see, it's a pretty basic airstrip airport. But it's nearby where I live. It's only a couple of miles away, in fact. I often go walking around these areas. Beautiful area. Ready to fly. That doesn't look like real world weather to me, so I'm just going to make sure that I do have... Ah, you see? It didn't. I want it on live weather. So there's a tip for you. If you want to fly in live weather, ensure that you go to this tab here. Go to the top of the screen. Go to the weather tab and ensure you've got it set to live weather. There we go. So we're just going to fly straight out, and we want to turn to the right to follow this line, which will take us over to Gatwick. So I'm going to go flaps 1 for this. There we go. Power up. And release the parking brake. And initially I find a height, especially on a short journey like this, I'm flying the Cessna 172, a flight level of between 1200 and 1500 feet is fine. It should keep us below any cloud layers. Oops, I'll take off there. Bit late on my takeoff, but never mind. Lifts off easily because I've got flaps up. I'll trim up. I'll link a video about setting up controllers, in this case a Logitech flight controller. Trim is important, so you can trim your aircraft out. I'll raise my flaps up now. The nose will want to go down a little, so I'll adjust my trim, so I'm not diving and I'm climbing, as you can see there. Like I say, between 12 and 1500 feet is an ideal height, especially for a journey of this length. You'll hear ATC chatter in a moment, because I've got it turned on, so it will say you're leaving our airspace, and it will chatter a little bit. Here we are.
Sierra X-ray Golf Sierra Alpha is type Cessna Skyhawk 08 miles northwest of Echo Golf Hotel Romeo. Request flight following. Cessna Alpha Sierra X-ray Golf Sierra Alpha approach. Squawk 5474. Squawk 5474 Cessna Golf Sierra Alpha.
I've got the ATC control. Actually, let me just pull back my throttle slightly. There's a bit of wind interference there. I could feel it moving my aircraft around. And that kind of height is fine. There is a bit of wind, so it may start pushing us down or up. I've noticed it does that a little bit. But I'm just trying to keep level at this. Oh, you can see that wind throwing me around there. I've moved the throttle back on the Logitech flight throttle quadrant. There's sort of notches, white lines on the side. I've moved it back to the first white line, the throttle. And I find in the Cessna 172, it's ideal if you want to try and stay at a level flight as long as you trim your aircraft out. I'm going to be moving up and down a little bit, decreasing and increasing in my height. Because the wind's throwing me around a little, but I'll try and keep it around this height now. So I'm just playing around with my trim. The trim is not particularly very good in this aircraft currently. You can see on the map to the right there, I'm trying to follow this purple line, which is we're not doing a too bad a job. Just going to move slightly to the left. Any sudden movements you're seeing, it's not me, it's the aircraft being thrown around because of the live weather. And we're flying over the beautiful south countryside. As you can see, southeast England countryside. Obviously, cityscapes look amazing in this game, but I find the countryside, especially in England, looks fantastic as well. Especially because I go walking around it looks very accurate. Ooh, okay, I've just been thrown there. Seems we have a wind coming from our left because I'm being thrown around a little bit. I'm struggling to trim and keep it in a sort of level height, shall we say, altitude, because I am being thrown around quite a lot, as you can see. But I'm getting there. Yeah, that will do. That's pretty much level. That will do. And you just really have to keep messing around with that trim button, wherever you've got your trim nose up, trim nose down. just gentle taps, and essentially, as long as you got your throttle at the correct setting, it should stay in a good, at a decent altitude, at a sort of stable altitude. You can see I've come off that purple line, so I'm going to move because I'm being thrown around again. I'm going to move to the left here. Like I say, it's just a nice, gentle introduction, this flight. Not doing anything crazy. Standard Cessna 172, default Cessna.
135.175 for Cessna Golf Sierra Alpha.
Base seats, ATC chatters going.
Cessna Alpha Sierra X-ray Golf Sierra Alpha.
Okay, my altitude's going up too much there. Just going to bring it back down. And there we go. Just bring the altitude down a little bit. Not too much, so I don't want it to get away from me, so I'm just trimming up slightly, nose up slightly, so I don't go too far down. Now it wants to climb again. This is the wind effect, the weather effect at the moment. It is windy outside, so this is pretty accurate, and the clouds look very accurate. I'm looking out my window. It's pretty much what I'm seeing outside my bedroom window. Sorry, my study window at the moment. And if you had clear skies, you wouldn't get all this sort of weather interference, so it's a lot easier to keep. If you just want to practice with the trim, go on clear skies first and get used to the trim. See if you can maintain a level altitude. As you can see, it's just bumping up and down, so it's constantly changing on this, but I'm okay. That's okay. I'm where I want to be currently. Really looking forward to getting into VATSIM, particularly. Never tried it. Would you believe all these years of flight sim and I've never tried it? Not afraid of it. I'm quite used to speaking because I do a lot of videos anyway. And I'm going to make mistakes in it. Of course. But then, you know, you kind of get used to it, I expect. Look at that though. Little towns and cottages. Lovely. Pretty much exactly what you'll see if you're flying over this area. Well worth going for a flight off the beaten track, as they say. So not flying in all the famous landmarks, just go to areas you don't normally visit, even if it's just countryside, because you do see some fascinating stuff. Would love to see A2A release a Cessna. They did a very sort of AccuSim, or AccuFeel, I can't remember what it's called now, AccuSim I think, in Flight Simulator X, and that was a pretty good Cessna. Sort of a living Cessna. I've dropped my altitude a little bit too much there, so I'm going to raise it. Well, that's okay. If you got wind around you and it's a windy day, you're going to find if you were flying in real life, you would have to combat probably the trim in a real Cessna. No, undoubtedly is better than the one in game currently. But you would have to combat that trim because you will be chucked around the sky like that. And it's good practice. Gives you something to do as well. Let's move left here. Coming back up to that purple line again. And we should start seeing Gatwick showing ahead of us any moment. Well, soon, anyway. Just make sure I'm pointing in the right direction. seems fine. Yeah, so if you set a flight plan, just follow the line. It couldn't be simpler, really. If you got autopilot on your aircraft, this one's a little bit bugged on the autopilot, and I want to fly it manually. But if you got autopilot on the other aircraft, which I'll show you in future videos, it will just follow the flight plan. Look at this though, you got these little towns and things. It's just brilliant. Brilliant, brilliant, brilliant. That's not Gatwick ahead, I don't believe. But look, you got these little places, little houses. Just feels very alive, the simulator, which is great and very accurate. Yeah, didn't think it was Gatwick. Gatwick's a little bit further ahead. And when we see Gatwick, I want to show you another tip. The clouds look fantastic at the moment. It's very accurate. I've got the clouds on a high setting in the simulator. Everything else is pretty much medium setting, but it still looks great to me. 1080p, which I have a 1080p monitor, so I don't need further than that or more than that. Yep, all looks great, and it is performing better, by the way. Since that patch 2, I have noticed less lag. Although saying that, I'll probably get some at some point. I've just jinxed it myself. But generally, it's less sort of bitty. You know, you don't get those micro stutters. Less stuttery. I've gone a little bit above my assigned height. Or the height I said I would do, but it's okay. As long as I'm around that height level, flight level of 1500-ish. And this flight in particular is pretty straightforward. I'm not on the purple line, but it's okay. Gatwick will show any moment. Ooh, okay, that wasn't me, that was wind veering me left there. It's also messed my trim up again. Gonna turn my telephone off because it's gonna start buzzing a lot. Okay. Always happens when you record, doesn't it? Gatwick, 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 where are you now? You're not far, I know that. Look at that. Little roads, little towns, traffic. Realism. Can't beat it. Those clouds are looking quite pendulous ahead of us. Looks like there could be some rain ahead there. We'll have to see. And I love the aspects of that. I know a lot of people complain about the real world weather, and it's been a bit bugged. And it has been for me, even when I've had it on live weather and it's not been sunny. Sometimes I'll see clear skies. Ooh. I was thrown downwards then. So you get used to trim on clear skies setting. Clear skies, you won't get any sort of wind effects. Get used to sort of trimming your aircraft so you're level altitude. And then when you're used to that, then translate it to... Actually, that's Gatwick ahead of us. That is Gatwick ahead of us. I know that. I'm going to show you something here. I'm going to put it on active pause. So the aircraft is paused, but the world around you still moves. So if there was traffic on the road, you'd see traffic go by and aircraft flying past if there were any. I'm going to go to my camera setting here, go to showcase, which will put me into drone camera. I'm going to move it up, the speed of the camera up, so I can get to the airport quicker. I want to fly, basically. Oops. Let's get back where the aircraft is. So the keys I use for this, on your numpad, 4 and 6 will move you, pan your view left and right. I want to get behind the aircraft. Put the speed down a little bit so I can get behind the aircraft, that's better. Now put the speed up. So 4 and 5 will pan you left and right. WASD keys will move you forward, backwards, left and right. Basically, from where the aircraft is situated there, I want to fly, let's get rid of this box, towards Gatwick here. I told you it was Gatwick, because I want to see how we're lined up. Now I know I can, from flying this route before, I'm going to come in pretty much to a straight approach on runway 26 left, I think it was, wasn't it? And you can see it flashing, the lights are flashing on the runway guiding me in. So if I fly straight ahead there, I'm going to come in, I'll have to turn slightly to line myself up. But it's pretty much a straight approach on the runway. If you're flying to an airport, the reason I'm showing you the drone camera, so W move forward, S move back, A move left, D move right, that's the default setting. 4 and 8 will pan you around, so it'll just pan you around, or turn you around left and right. I won't go into other keys yet. Oh, you've got the R key to move up, and F key to move down. So R to move up, F to move down. So if I move way up, I'll go above the clouds here, which is cool. Come down. I'll come down nearer to ground level. Anyway, as you can see, if I keep flying ahead there, I'm going to be pretty much lined up with the runway. If you're flying to an airport where you're not sure how the runway is, what direction you need to land on, what direction the runway is running, basically, active pause, it's your simulator. Don't worry about, oh, that's not realistic. It's your simulator, you do with it what you want. I go to the drone camera often when I'm not sure where the runway is on a particular airport. This one I've flown before, so I'm pretty familiar with it. To get out of drone camera, go to that box. So you go up here, choose camera, and just click on cockpit. It'll take it out of drone camera. So let's unpause that. The aircraft will misbehave now. It always does when you come out of active pause. It either goes up or down, even if you had it, it's not too bad at the moment. I'm gonna go into flaps 1 stage now and slow my throttle down as well. The aircraft nose will veer up as soon as you start lowering your flaps, deploying your flaps. It does that. You just need to trim down to get it back into its neutral position. I want to get the airspeed, which is on the left here, down to around 70-ish on approach, mid-70s. Then when I'm coming over the runway, I'll bleed more speed off. I'll zero my throttle and it'll bleed more speed. Another stage of flaps. And then we can land, hopefully smoothly. So I just need to come left a little bit here, I feel. I'm going to decrease my throttle again. You can see my airspeed is now under 100, under 90 now, which is great. Don't want to be dropping too quickly, so I'm just going to mess around with my trim settings till I start dropping gradually. And I'm going to line myself up with that. You can see the runway flashing ahead of me there. We saw before with the drone camera that it's running sort of in that direction. Get rid of that mouse there. Another stage of flap. Let's go full flaps, as we're not far from the runway now. And as you can see, my airspeed is dropping. It's probably going to go mid-70s, which is fine. It's where I want it. And like I say, I can bleed more speed off when I'm actually over the runway itself. I've got my throttle down probably about halfway at the moment. I'm not an expert at this, guys, so bear with me. or people. Guys, people, friends, I'm not an expert at this. As you can probably see. I'm going to use my right mouse here just to see where I am in relation to the runway. And that's okay, I'll keep that view in fact. So as you can see, dropping gradually. Don't go dropping huge heights unless you need to come down from a huge height. If you're at the height I mentioned before, about 1500 feet, it puts you on a pretty good approach for the runway. I'll soon have to start moving left. In fact, I'll just slowly, get rid of that mouse again, start moving left now. Sorry, right. As you start turning, your nose of the aircraft will want to go down, so I'm actually manually just adjusting that. I've turned in too quickly there, but never mind. We've got plenty of time to line up with that runway. This is not a masterclass at all. Warning. I do like my flight simulators, but I'm not an expert. But I generally, touch wood, land quite well, generally. And that's the important thing, isn't it? Wind's tossing me around there, so I have to be aware, and if you're flying this in real world weather settings, you have to be aware that you'll probably be tossed around if it's windy out. So you have to adjust for that. Adjust for any sudden gusts, especially in a light aircraft. So I'm at full flaps, as you saw before. Plenty of time to get down on that runway. You can see my speed now is actually going down to mid-60s, which is probably more ideal as an approach speed. And I'll bleed that down even more when we're actually on the runway itself, or over the runway, and gently bring the aircraft down. Now, even though I've got ATC on, it won't assign me a parking lot, because it's not assigned me a runway, I believe, unless it's going to prove me wrong. Anyway, I'm just trimming now, so I'm on a gentle descent. Use the correct terminology, Hudson. Even can I? Right, okay, let's pull my throttle back more so I start descending more now. Plenty of runway here. Just aiming for those initial white markers maybe, but I can float over the runway. Floating is just actually what I'm going to do now. It's just holding your aircraft above the runway so you come down to a gentle... I've nailed my throttle. Well, okay, we're down. Wasn't the best landing, to be honest, but we're down. I think there was a bit of wind on landing, to be fair. I'm going to brake gently, and I can take this next turning, or exit, correct terminology. So as you can see, I'm not brilliant at flying. I'm okay. Well, I think I'm okay. Not brilliant. Probably like a lot of you who are just starting, even though I've been flying for quite some time. Or flying in simulators for quite some time. Anyway, I'm just using little throttle there, just to get me off the runway. I'm not going to park up, because I've not been assigned a parking lot. What I would do there is tune into ground, and then ATC. Actually, let's just stop here. Let's see if we can do that. We can manually do that. Tune to ground. Request taxi to parking.
Gatwick ground Cessna Alpha Sierra X-ray Golf Sierra Alpha request taxi to parking.
Cessna Alpha Sierra X-ray Golf Sierra Alpha
via taxiway Tango Cessna Golf Sierra Alpha.
And there you go. Obviously, within the options somewhere, I don't remember, I think it was assistance, wasn't it? Somewhere, there's a navigation aids. There you go, taxi ribbon. I've got that turned on. So that's in options, assistance, navigation aids, taxi ribbon on. And that will actually show you, that blue line there will guide you to parking, which is good. Actually, naughty naughty, once you've landed, raise your flaps, especially when you've come to a good sort of speed, shall we say. When you've slowed down, raise those flaps up. What was I saying about me not being an expert? I'm not. I enjoy flight sims. I fly, you know, some detailed aircraft. Flight Simulator X, PMDG, the very sort of study level aircraft. DCS, some of those study level aircrafts. I enjoy it, but I'm not particularly an expert in any one. The Cessna is quite an easy and forgiving aircraft to fly. So I'd recommend you try one of the Cessna default aircraft if you want to get used to it. Flight Simulator, that is. There we go, and you can get a view of the aircraft. Airport here as well. All the various aircraft lined up there, which I love all that in this simulator. I love the way it brings a level of realism that not many other simulators do. Gatwick is one of my favourite airports. It's an airport I fly out of in real life. I don't fly myself. I fly on one of the aircraft. Oh, by the way, I'm using auto rudder as well. I still don't have rudder pedals. Would you believe? It wants me to park over here. Still don't have rudder pedals. I ordered some off eBay. It fell through. I'll get hold of some eventually. For the time being, auto rudder. I'm using my yoke to control my rudder. It will do for now. There you go. They want me to park here. Come straight forward, he's saying stop. Yep. Hey, there you go. How's that? So there you go. Let me know your thoughts. This is the first video of many I want to release on my around the world flight. Let me know your thoughts. Leave a like if you liked the video, and I'll see you soon.